Governments have always been thieves, but not of money, of freedom. In Soviet Russia, they didn't just tax childless couples. They branded them selfish traitors, draining their savings to fund propaganda that mocked their empty cribs. In 1647, England didn't just ban Christmas carols. They sent soldiers door to door, smashing nativity scenes and jailing fathers for humming Silent Night. Sweden didn't just tax dancing. They forced couples to grovel for permits, reducing joy to a black market commodity for 500 years. Medieval lords didn't tax peacocks for gold. They served those glittering birds at feasts, then burned the homes of nobles who couldn't pay. And England's button tax? They turned fashion into a felony, jailing seamstresses for sewing metal buttons while the rich flaunted cloth once dipped in poor men's blood. These weren't taxes. They were psychological warfare. But here's the truth they'll erase from your textbooks. The game never ended. Your Netflix? That's today's Peacock Tax, punishing you for the crime of relaxation. Your Spotify? Dance permit that tracks your every skip, shuffle, and sigh. Uber Eats? A button tax on hunger, charging you $12.99 for the luxury of eating when you're too exhausted to cook. Even your data is currency now. Every click, scroll, and search taxed by algorithms that sell your attention to the highest bidder. They've swapped shackles for subscriptions, but the goal's the same. Own your joy. Own your pain. Own you. For 2,000 years, this playbook has survived plagues, revolutions, and wars. Why? Because it's designed to break you slowly, one fee, one subscription, one convenience at a time. And when you're numb, they'll tax the air you breathe, the words you speak, the thoughts you hide. But tonight we burn their ledger. You'll learn how Stalin weaponized loneliness, how Cromwell monetized faith, and how to starve their system by refusing to play. This isn't history. It's a survival guide. Will you keep funding your own prison? Or will you erase their rules, starting with this video? The chains are yours, but the key is here. The childless tax. How tyrants turned wombs into revenue streams. In 1941, the Soviet Union declared war on the childless. Not with bullets, but with paperwork. Couples who dared not breed were branded traitors, their wages slashed, their homes ransacked, their marriages spat on as bourgeois decadence. Stalin's message was clear: your womb belongs to the state. And now, in 2024, a Russian MP just proposed reviving that nightmare. Valery Seleznev wants to tax childless couples to fund Putin's war machine, a patriotic duty paid in blood and silence. This isn't history. It's a time loop, and you're the target. Let's dissect the lie. In 1947, childless couples paid 6% of their income, not to help orphans, as the state claimed, but to break them. Why? Because empty cribs meant independent minds. No children to threaten, no leverage to control. Today, Seleznev's tax is framed as support for soldiers, but dig deeper. This is about owning your future. Force you to fund the very war that's killing potential fathers. Force you to choose, breed cannon fodder or pay for the bullets yourself. But the real weapon isn't the tax. The shame. In Stalin's era, childless women were paraded as spies of the West. Today, Russian state TV calls them traitors to the motherland. The goal? To make you punish yourself. To internalize their hate. To kneel before a flag and beg forgiveness for your crime of existing without a child. And if you think this stays in Russia, look west. They're testing the waters. Hungary pays baby bonuses only to married, church-going couples. China's social fertility score locks IVF behind loyalty apps. Even Silicon Valley's corporate daycare comes with clauses. You birth twins? We own their college funds. This isn't about life. It's about inventory. Your womb. Your data. Your DNA, tagged, tracked, and taxed. The tax is a shadow, but shadows vanish in light. Stalin's traitors outlived his regime by outsmarting ledgers and burning labels. Today you outsmart algorithms. Share this truth until their narrative fractures. The childless aren't gaps in their system, we're cracks. Unmapped. Uncontrolled. A glitch in their code. Your womb isn't a spreadsheet. Your data isn't their profit. And your silence? It's a mirror reflecting their fear of those who choose. History's taxes on existence crumbled. This one will too. Not with riots, but with awareness. Not with fire, but with questions. The cycle breaks when you see it. Christmas, the forbidden feast. In 1647, England's Puritan rulers didn't just dislike Christmas. They outlawed its existence. Under Cromwell's iron grip, carols were deemed papist superstitions, feasts sinful excess, and decorations idolatrous vanities. Soldiers patrolled streets, battering down doors to seize roast geese, smash holly wreaths, and arrest anyone caught whispering Merry Christmas. The punishment? Fines that crippled families, stocks that humiliated souls, and prison cells that swallowed dissent. This wasn't piety. It was psychological warfare, a purge of joy to cement control. The ordinance to abolish festivals claimed to purify England of decadence. The truth was darker. Christmas, for centuries, had been a social equalizer. Lords served peasants' feasts. Masters gifted servants ale. The poor sang demands for figgy pudding at manor doors, and received it. This temporary anarchy terrified elites. Cromwell's regime, fresh from executing a king, saw Christmas as a threat, a spark that could ignite revolution. So they smothered it. Churches were ordered to treat December 25th as a fasting day. Shops forced to stay open. Closures meant fines. Soldiers confiscated meat cushions from pews to make worship unbearable. Even mince pies, symbolic of Christ's cradle, were banned as idolatrous. The message was clear: joy was treason. Compliance was non-negotiable. But the Puritans underestimated tradition. In Norwich, families sang carols as lullabies, swapping Christ with King to dodge spies. In Yorkshire, bakers sold winter cakes, mince pies in disguise. And in London's alleyways, underground sermons preached the old faith, with lookouts whistling "God Rest Ye Merry" to signal danger. The band didn't kill Christmas, it weaponized it. Resistance turned lethal in 1647 Canterbury. Soldiers interrupted a secret feast in a wool merchant's cellar. What began as arrests exploded into riots. Townsfolk pelted redcoats with holly, smashed stocks with Yule logs, and chanted, "Freedom for Christmas." Dozens died. Hundreds jailed. Yet the riots spread to Kent, Essex, even Cromwell's strongholds. The Puritans had unwrapped a truth: you can't tax hope. You can't jail memory. The war on Christmas wasn't about religion. It was about who controlled light in England's darkest hour. For 13 years the Puritans answered. But in the end, the people reclaimed their dawn. One stolen carol, one hidden feast, one defiant bite of pie at a time. Dance tax: how Sweden's 500-year permit regime strangled joy. In 1520, Sweden's King Gustav Vasa didn't just tax dancing. He branded it heresy. Public gatherings required permits stamped by church elders. A single misstep, a jig too lively, a spin too free, could bankrupt families or jail fathers for moral decay. This wasn't piety. It was psychological warfare, a 500-year campaign to sever rhythm from rebellion, joy from justice. The dance tax began as a tool of control. After breaking from Rome, Sweden's Lutheran crown feared peasant uprisings. Dancing, with its pagan roots and collective euphoria, threatened order. Permits cost a week's wages, valid only for approved holidays. Violators faced fines, public lashings, or exile. But the true target wasn't movement, it was unity. A dancing crowd was a thinking crowd. And thinking crowds topple kings. By the 1700s, the tax birthed a black market of rhythm. In Smaland, fiddlers coded polskas as church hymns. In Dalarna, midsummer dances hid in forests, scouts whistling police hoofbeats. Even the aristocracy skirted rules. Masked balls became charity fundraisers, waltzes, processional marches. The law, absurd and unenforceable, became a joke. But jokes have teeth. In 1862, Lund University student Lars Hjalmarsson was jailed for hosting a permitless quadrille. His trial sparked riots. Students stormed courthouses, farmers mailed dance shoes to parliament, and priests sermonized on rhythm's divine right. By 1880, permits were eased, but not erased. The taxmen simply adapted. Jazz in the 1920s? Decadent. Rock and roll in the 1950s? Anarchic. The state's message never changed. Your body is their metronome. The final blow came in 1973. Stockholm's youth, armed with ABBA anthems and disco defiance, flooded squares in illegal flash mobs. Permits? Ignored. Fines? Unpaid. When police arrested 200 in Göteborg, 10,000 more danced at the station doors, blaring "Dancing Queen" until cells shook. The state, outmocked and outmoved, repealed the tax in 1976. But its shadow lingered. For generations, Swedes had internalized a lie: joy required permission. The dance tax wasn't about steps. It was about who controlled the beat. For 5 centuries, kings, clergy, and cops answered. But in barns, forests, and disco infernos, the people stole back the rhythm. One illegal twirl, one defiant stomp, one unchained laugh at a time. The taxmen wrote the rules. The dancers wrote history. The Peacock Tax: how feathered opulence became tyranny's golden leash. In medieval Europe, peacocks weren't birds, they were weapons. Served at banquets to humiliate rivals, their iridescent feathers flaunted wealth, their meat symbolizing divine right. But by 1390, France's King Charles VI declared them contraband. A peacock tax was levied, 20 gold livres per bird, crushing nobles who dared rival the crown's splendor. This wasn't fiscal policy. It was theater, a spectacle of power where luxury was both trophy and trap. The tax's genius was its duplicity. Market stalls sold peacocks freely, but serving one required a permit signed by the king himself. Violators faced fines doubling yearly, until families surrendered lands or titles. The goal? To centralize all. Only the crown could stage divinity. Only the crown could own beauty. And beauty, unchallenged, breeds obedience. By the 1400s, the tax birthed a black market of spectacle. In Venice, chefs disguised goose as peacock, staining meat with elderberry to mimic its famed imperial blue. In England, nobles buried birds in forest clearings, hosting secret feasts under moonlight. Even the church rebelled. Abbots sermonized that peacocks roost in Eden, making them God's tax exempt. The law, absurd yet unrelenting, turned banquets into battlegrounds. The tax's cruelty peaked in 1483. French Duke Philippe de Bourgogne, bankrupted by permits, sold his armor to host a wedding feast. When taxmen seized the peacocks, his guests rioted, flinging gilded plates and chanting, "Eat your gold, not our glory." Philippe was jailed, his lands forfeit. Yet his defiance ignited a silent war. Nobles began gifting peacocks to rivals, poisoned asterisk ones. A single feather left on a lord's pillow became a threat: pay your tax, or pay your grave. By 1600, the tax crumbled, not from reform but ridicule. Peacocks, once sacred, became symbols of tyranny's gluttony. Playwrights mocked kings as plucked fowl. Peasants wore feather hats to markets, bowing to taxmen with mock reverence. The law, stripped of awe, died unmourned. But its legacy festered. Luxury remained a ruler's game, its rules written in gold and blood. The peacock tax wasn't about birds. It was about who controlled splendor. For 300 years, crowns answered. But in forests, feasts, and poisoned plates, the nobility stole back the spectacle. One illicit bite, one covert plume, one silent laugh at a taxman's expense. The banquets ended. The hunger for power? That never dies. The button tax. When fashion was weaponized. In 1784, England didn't just tax buttons. They outlawed self-expression. Metal buttons on coats became luxury contraband, punishable by fines that could bankrupt a tailor. The rich flaunted cloth-covered buttons dyed in gold thread. The poor sewed tin under rags, praying taxmen wouldn't hear them jingle. But this wasn't about fashion. It was about marking caste. And today the game hasn't changed, only the stitches. Let's unravel the lie. The button tax claimed to curb extravagance. In truth, it policed poverty. A worker's tin button could land him in debtor's prison. A lord's silk-covered ones? A patriotic duty. Today's labels are subtler. That algorithm pushing premium brands your salary can't stretch to? The buy now, pay later scheme sinking Gen Z into invisible debt? It's the same tax, dressed in denim and pixels. Your style isn't choice. It's algorithmic coercion stitching you into a caste they profit from. But the real crime wasn't the tax. It was the silent surrender. In 1784, tailors burned midnight oil sewing hidden buttons, mocking the law with every silent stitch. Today you mock it too, reselling shine hauls, pirating patterns, flooding Depop with thrifted defiance. The taxmen still come. Not with ledgers but data scrapers tracking your clicks, your cart abandons, your late night scrolls. They're not selling clothes. They're selling shame, the same shame that jailed a man for a tin button. Upgrade your wardrobe, or be upgraded to irrelevance. Here's what they burned from the history books. The button tax collapsed. Not by revolt but by ridicule. Workers sewed buttons to their shoes. Wives embroidered them into quilts. The law became a joke, and jokes killed tyranny. Today your defiance is quieter. A skipped ad. A blurred logo. A second-hand jacket frayed with stories, not brands. But the goal's the same. Make their tax laughable. Make their control cost more than it's worth. The button tax wasn't about buttons. It was about who gets to shine. In 1784, the answer was them. In 2025, the light's in your hands. Your style isn't a crime. It's a blueprint. Wear it loud. Wear it quiet. But wear it yours. The taxmen are watching. Let them see. They taxed buttons to silence you. Joke's on them. You're the needle now. And there you have it. These taxes weren't failures, they were rehearsals. Today's algorithms and microtransactions are just ghosts of the same machine. But ghosts starve without fear. Share these stories until their patterns scream. Remember, every tax is a confession of weakness. A plea to control what they can't comprehend. The war isn't new. The battlefield is.